Hello and welcome to the Paranormal MD. I'm Mary Marshall, your host. The show this evening contains interviews done with guests, live interviews that were done from the First International and Scientific Global Pyramid Conference. There is a lineup of really awesome guests. This is part 2 of a 2-part show of interviews that were done at this conference, and I had the opportunity to be, as they called it, the conference interviewer. So that gave me access to these people and consequentially you the listener, to some really good information. I'll give you a little bit of information on the few guests that will be on the program tonight. One is Dr. Maureen Clemmons. Dr. Maureen Clemmons is the president of Transformation and Innovation and Change Management Consulting Practice in Los Angeles. She has some very interesting stuff having to do with wind, pyramids, and obelisks. Her projects, actually there's a couple of them, but the one main project is the subject of a History Channel documentary. The next guest on tonight's roster, so to say, is John Shaughnessy. John has a few different professional achievements as an engineer, an inventor, and writer, and is a contributor to theoretical physics. John has been an independent researcher of ancient technologies for over 30 years, and his first book, Pyramid Gravity Force, published in 2012, is about his discovery of ancient technology on how all Earth's large pyramids align with sister volcanoes and work with the moon's gravitational force for specific geo-engineering purposes. He has a wonderful mathematical calculation on how this all works, and we'll have to talk to him about that later. And then we have the ever beautiful Anita Meyer. Anita has a degree in criminology, a linguistic decipherment expert in ancient writings in the field of orthography, paleography, and graphology. She is also a cryptology whiz and a visual pattern recognizer in the study of nature and structure. Anita has a few books out. One of her older books is The Primordial Language, Confirmation of the Divine Creator. Her next book was In Search of the Holy Language, and her current book is Beyond the Bible Code. She's a fascinating and knowledgeable guest, and I'm looking forward to talking to her. I'd like to take a moment to let you know that this show has 2 wonderful sponsors this evening. The first is Chum Bucket Studios. Chum Bucket Studios for all of your video, graphic, and printing needs. And the next sponsor is Ashmore Estates. Haunted Ashmore Estates is a fabulous place, so go check it out on the web. And if you would like to find more information about tonight's guest, you can go to the paranormalmdradio.com. I will have the guest information and links to their websites. You can also find out information about me and any events that I will be speaking at or appearing at, as well as a bunch of nifty other information. And if you, for some reason, would like to catch up on past shows, you can also do that at theparanormalmdradio.com, or you can check out our YouTube channel. So, without further ado, let's do a little bit of weird world news this evening, and then we'll get into the interviews. We have a few different weird world news stories to share with you tonight, and as always, Pam Herman, my ever trusty news correspondent, will be helping me out with the news this evening. Oh, and this is for all the paranormal investigators out there. You'll like this one. Optics breakthrough could improve infrared technology. New research out of Australia promises to dramatically reduce the price of infrared technologies like night vision goggles. The bottom line to this all is that they really accomplished this by etching thin grooves in the film. the thinness of the material and this etching somehow is improving the technology and consequentially will reduce the cost of infrared. So glad to hear that.
That would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Pam, what do you have for us next?
We have dogs don't trust you when you're angry. Why won't your dog trust you when you point to the tennis ball hiding in the long grass at the other end of the yard? It could be because you fooled your dog one too many times with a fake throw, or as new research suggests, it could be because you're angry. In a recent study aimed at understanding how dogs interpret the emotional cues of their human friends, researchers found dogs were less likely to trust someone who appeared angry. We know that dogs are sensitive to our emotional cues, but we wanted to know, do they use these emotional cues? That Flom and his colleagues had volunteers execute a pointing gesture in the direction of a hidden dog treat. Gestures combined with positive expressions and vocalizations had no greater effect than neutral gestures had on the control group of dogs. But dogs reacting to a volunteer expressing negative emotions took longer to react to the pointing gesture and explore the foreign territory in search of the treat. Okay, I think this doesn't just relate to dogs.
No. And
I think humans do the same thing.
Well, I don't know. Some humans, they still go looking for that ball after you throw a fake one. I think the dogs actually probably figure it out quicker than the people do. Kind of think of magicians. We haven't figured that out, right? We sit there and watch them, the sleight of hand, and we're just amazed. And we keep doing it over and over. Dogs, they kind of probably figured it out after like 3 times. So I don't know what that says.
Right? That's pretty funny.
But, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And it's not a surprise. I guess they had to technically spend tons and tons of money to research this, to discover that they not only pick up on positive emotional cues, but negative ones. Yeah. Absolutely. My dog used to,
Go hide?
No.
Mama's bad.
Well, sometimes. I think it depended. Sometimes she would. Other times, if I was like mad at her, she would get like attitude. She'd be like, come on, bring it on. Other times she would slink up. And you know what, though? That did come with age. She lived to 16 years old. So
That's
I think,
pretty amazing.
By 16, she's like, whatever. She's seen it, been there, done that. Bring it on, lady. What are you going to do to me?
Right. She'll get over it.
Exactly. The next story is kind of not good. The headline is Tesla driver caught using autopilot to snooze behind the wheel. Tesla Motors responded to a viral video of a man using the autopilot feature to snooze in heavy traffic by cautioning drivers to stay alert. The footage posted by Reddit this week in the form of an animated GIF shows the Tesla Model S driver sleeping behind the wheel while the electric car's autopilot creeping forward and stopping in heavy traffic and on an unidentified stretch of highway. Tesla describes its autopilot feature as semi-autonomous, meaning it can perform the functions but needs to be supervised by the human driver at all times.
Oh, there you have an idea.
Really? Yeah. I mean, so, that's going to happen. That's going to happen a lot as these cars become like smartphones, smart cars that can respond, and we have them. Like if we don't put the brake on in time, the thing will brake for us.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
With summer coming up, I think this next story might be good for people to know some bad things that they should not do.
Would that be man cooks up deep fried water for terrible ideas hackathon?
Yes.
Well, the story says that a Massachusetts man revealed the method he used to create deep fried water for a terrible ideas hackathon event in San Francisco. Jonathan Marcus posted a video to YouTube showing his first successful attempt at creating deep fried water for an event dubbed the San Francisco Stupid Expletive No One Needs and Terrible Ideas Hackathon, which take place in May. Marcus said the video's description he used a process called frozen reverse spherification to create a calcium alginate membrane around a ball-shaped serving of water before rolling it in flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs for deep frying. Marcus cuts through the fried ball and water runs out before he samples his creation. That is the blandest fried thing I've ever tasted, he says in the video. Yeah.
I say, with summer coming and all the festivals and all those, it's deep fried everything at these festivals with the food. This is a brilliant idea. You could make a fortune. It doesn't matter if it tastes bad.
People are going to buy it.
Wouldn't you? Come on.
Just because.
You want to see. You would buy it and be like, what? And then you would want to watch the process, and then you want to see it. You want to see. I would get one.
Right?
We need to do this. We could make a fortune at these festivals.
This should be our next thing.
We could get chain stands across all the counties.
I think you're onto something here.
It's not going to last.
But what fad does?
Exactly. By the third year, the majority of people either have heard about it, tried it, or others are doing it. It's not going to work. But particularly that first year, gold mine. So
yep,
that's my thoughts.
I think we're onto it.
Of course, am I going to do this? No, but somebody will.
Somebody will take the idea and run with it. Thank you, Jonathan Marcus. Here's my money.
Okay, so now the next story we have is, and this is kind of timely. I came across this article because I've been working on some outdoor investigation stuff. We came across, and it's so strange, things that I'll notice, and then that I've never noticed before. And then this was in southeast Wisconsin. It's a very forested area. Since then, have now experienced it at home. And I never recall coming here, at least paying attention. I guess it is. So we're walking. I'm out there, and you start hearing what sounds like crackles and pops surrounding you. And it was getting fairly, it was loud enough that you're like, what is that? So I kept hearing this, but you couldn't isolate it. So after going home, I did some research. What I did find was, and then I came across this article, which is, do trees sleep at night? So after a long day of photosynthesizing, do trees fall asleep? It depends on how you define sleep. But trees do relax their branches at night, which might be a sign of snoozing, scientists said. The silver birches, branches, and leaves sagged at night. They reached their lowest position a few hours before sunrise and then perked up again during the wee hours of the morning, the researchers found. Trees might sleep after dark, according to precise laser measurements that were detected by the plants. And basically what they were saying is that the changes are not too large, only up to 10 centimeters, 4 inches for trees with a height of about 5 meters, 16 feet. It is unclear if the sun woke up the trees or if they relied on their own internal circadian, which is trees, rhythm, the researchers said. So it seems too that the trees did in fact seem to be working. It was leaning more towards that they were working on their more internal clock to wake up, because some were waking up before then. So I guess their internal clock was slightly off. So here is the really kind of things, is that they suspect the plant movement is always closely connected with the water balance of individual cells, which is affected by the availability of light through photosynthesis. Now, combining with some other stuff that I had learned, apparently plants, and trees alike, actually talk to you and can hear. Now, that sounds really strange, but how they're talking is that it is in high frequencies or very low frequencies above or below the human range of hearing. So there's this like kind of almost like like you would think of that white noise, a hum that
Right.
that is created by them. The interesting, and here's the really kind of creepy part. Apparently, they're not, because we always think of like, oh, I'm going to have a salad, and I'm going to eat and it's going to be yummy and it's just plants. It's not, it was living, it grew from the ground, I took it from the ground and now it's my meal. It's not dead. They're actually alive.
What?
It's true. So all the vegetarians out there, you have nothing to eat. Because apparently you will not hear it, but there is a good chance that the last thing, the plant or vegetable of your choice, that you're eating, the last thing that it hears, is the inside of your mouth, and itself screaming, "You murderer!"
You're you gotta be kidding me.
I'm not, well, I don't know that they're actually.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, though. At least, for those of us that eat meat, we pretty much know it is no longer living when we are consuming it. But plants, they were living too. I never understood the whole vegetarian thing about not eating meat because it was something living. Because plants were something living too. What's the difference in the mentality of that?
Oh, if we had a vegetarian in the chat room, they would tell you, baby, all over your case right now why.
Okay, well, there's the mentality of it is that there isn't one. I mean, if it was living, a plant was living, no different than an animal living.
I know. I mean, it is. I get what you're saying. Well, after reading a few articles on this now and understanding that they can actually, in their own way, in a sense, make sound, and that they're living. And so, this was actually brought up on Facebook. And a friend of mine had posted a different article, I think, on it. And that came up and was saying, well, but plants, when you remove them from the root, we're thinking they're dead. But that's not really true, because there's many, many plants that you should do with clippings, and you just put them in water and they'll
regenerate them.
Yeah. So any type of plant that can grow from its own clippings is not dead. If you have a plant that does not do that, which there are many, you could just, you put the leaf and a little stem in water, it's not going to do anything. You can be assured that you are, in fact, now eating a dead thing. Before,
wow.
I mean, it was dead before you're chomping into it and killing it.
I'm just going to go ahead and keep enjoying my steak and my salad. And
But the other weird thing and what all started this, going back to the original, when I was saying we were hearing this crackling and popping, it actually is the trees when it is very dry, when it starts to become very dry, and at night they're trying to pull the water up through these like little veins, and you can get air and gas bubbles if it's drier, versus like when it's very moist, they can just suck it up and they're getting their water to them that way. As it gets drier, can be this mix of now air and gas type bubbles, and thus you will hear this crackling and popping noise. And it's very strange. Like when you're in a massive forest, you're hearing it quite surround you a lot. And then oddly, I came home and sure enough, I went to the big tree outside my house. I'm sitting there listening to it and it's like 1:00 in the morning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I never notice that before?
It's really that loud, huh?
Yeah. But I guess, typically you're going to have traffic and people and stuff, but if you go out into, at the wee hours of the night and you take a listen, you're going to hear them. At the right time. Again, moisture is going to be the factor of how much cracking and crackling, popping noise you may or may not hear, according to, to that.
Interesting. So next time I'll go talk to my trees.
See?
Have them talk back to me.
So it's true. That's a very good point. Talking to your plants may help them grow.
Very interesting. I like that.
So you got another story?
Well, I do. I have a story about a teaching assistant helped students online and no one knew the difference. Meet Jill Watson, a first-time teaching assistant at Georgia Tech assigned to moderate an online forum for a computer science class. Jill was one of 9 TAs assigned to help answer questions about coursework and projects from the 300 students enrolled in the advanced course. This was knowledge-based artificial intelligence, after all. Now, a typical class posts approximately 10,000 messages in a given semester. Near the end of April, Professor Gold had to come clean to the students. Jill was, in fact, software powered by IBM Watson. She was not real. Even with a large team of TAs, the number of posts was simply overwhelming. And of course, everyone had to keep up the ruse that Jill was actually a person. Because of how well Jill performed her task, Goal plans on bringing her back next semester under a different name with the goal of accurately answering 40% of all questions by the end of the year. With Watson fielding the questions that have clear answers, the other TAs are free to tackle the more technical and even philosophical questions that arise in the course. In a recent online survey, an artificial intelligence conducted by the British Science Association, 60% felt that AI will lead to fewer jobs in the decade's time, with 27% indicating that decline would be significant. But in the...
And I want to make a correction. It's AI.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
For artificial intelligence. I know. Okay. It does look like AI.
It looks like an...
It totally does. Yeah, when you're reading it, yeah. I think we should.
I think it sounds better.
So...
It's better than AI.
I'm gonna stop at this point because I think the biggest concern, wouldn't you think everybody has, is taking jobs away again.
Exactly. Too many things are going to automation, and I have a friend that won't even go to the when you're in Walmart, the do-it-yourself cashier thing, won't go there because that's taking somebody's job.
Oh, really?
And never really thought of it before, but it's true.
Well, and here's the thing: jobs pop up, other types of jobs come about as a result. Meaning, if you have an AI doing this, you're going to lose, they're using 8 humans right now to answer these questions, to be there for the students. Now, if this thing does 40%, and even if it goes to being able to do 80% at some point of answering the questions, the artificial intelligence, if it gets to that point, you're still knocking out 6 jobs. 2 of them might be replaced by tech jobs now, repairs and fixing and looking at, IT stuff. But
that's still a lot.
It's still a loss.
I think in this day and age, and having a friend that's been unemployed for a very, very long time, 6 jobs, that's a lot of jobs.
Yeah. But how do you not do this?
Well,
do you know what I mean? It's and I don't mean to sound like, well, why did you do it? Well, because I could, kind of an answer, but it's an advancement. We are learning by trying to apply this artificial intelligence. What are the limitations right now? What can we do to expand that and keep progressing forward in our knowledge and technology? And that you want to do. However, right?
Well, to an extent. I mean, it takes out the human element too, and I don't know, I'm one that gets totally frustrated when I call a hotline for whatever reason, and you got to go through all these series of numbers just to reach a human being. What happened to the old time where you just call and somebody picks up the phone and they answer your question?
They haven't done that since like 1967, I think.
I know, but that's the frustrating part of it. And it's just, we are getting so ahead of ourselves in technology that there's no human element left. And I think that's part of our problem today, too, that people are rude and, inconsiderate people because you don't really know how to interact with people because it's all with machinery.
Because you're so used to talking to machines, to artificial intelligence, right?
Right.
But there's some humans I think have artificial intelligence too, but that just saying. And not in a good way. Yeah, that's a really tricky, because I do want to see the advancement, and I think that it's necessary to do, but I don't want to see the loss of jobs. I don't know what the balance is to this, to create a better balance so that people are not losing their source of income. Because here's the thing, not everybody can afford to go to college to become, or school for training, right, to do, technological type jobs. And we're really now, pushing out a large portion of the population, putting them into poverty because they're not going to be able to have work to sustain themselves.
Right.
So it is a very tricky kind of situation. And you're right, the interactive skills I probably am now ruder to service reps of one kind or another that I talk to. They're real people because of having to deal with machines so much, or software.
Well, and there's even that commercial out now where the woman thinks she's talking to software and she actually is talking to a real person. It's because it doesn't happen.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
And because, we've all done this, where you're like, and they're like, please press for this, and you're, or say, whatever your options are. You can say this, and you'll be like, customer service,
live person, live person,
like various terms you'll use, service rep, customer, and then before you know it, you're yelling into the phone, customer service,
and then it says, I do not understand your request, and hangs up on you.
Oh, I haven't had that happen. Oh, yeah. I've done the press zero 99 times in a row to where I'm almost breaking my phone. I want a real person. 000 operator
person. Yep.
And then just you want to take the phone, throw it across the room, and I'm sure some people have. I wouldn't do that with phones are so darn expensive nowadays. But yeah, I can. Oh, you know what? And I'll tell you, that is the one thing, because we all have mobile cellular phones now. And a lot of people don't even have landlines anymore. I miss them because that's something you could do with a landline that you cannot do with your cell phone. You could pick up that receiver and slam it down.
Throw it.
You could throw it, put a hole in your wall, and your phone was still okay. If you were really upset at a person or some, some artificial intelligence response, you could just be like, bam, and slam the phone down.
Oh, that slam instead of just a click of hanging up. Oh, yeah, way more effective.
And you can't do that anymore.
Very true.
They've taken that away from us.
How dare them?
Maybe
somebody will create an app that'll have that.
the slamming down. They should.
Maybe it's already out there. Maybe we should look into that.
I bet you there is. If we've thought of it, somebody else I'm sure has. And it's just like this noise that you can hit on your phone that's like a phone slamming down, because you can't, if you hit your end button, it just ends. It doesn't,
you just hear a click, you don't hear anything else.
I want I am really PO'd right now, and screw you, slam the phone down.
Right, that whole sound effect.
Yes. All right, and I think this may be, I'm not sure, I don't know if it's the last story or not, probably not. Well, I'll probably do this one rather quickly. This one is, if we don't own our genes, what protects study subjects in genetic research? On February 25th, the White House hosted a forum on the National Institute of Health Precision Medicine Initiative. This is an ambitious research study that aims to develop targeted drugs and treatments that would vary from individual to individual, to reach the goal of eventually being able to make specific recommendations for patients based on their own combination of genes, environment, and lifestyle. Researchers plan to collect that kind of information from 1 million Americans. At the forum, President Obama remarked, "I would like to think that if someone does a test on me or my genes, that's mine." Lots of people would make that assumption. It seems sensible that we would own our own genetic information, but the legality is quite different. So basically they're saying we don't own the rights to our own genes.
What?
So whether it's, see, my question comes in is they're talking about genetic research. You have to sign and you're saying blah, 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 How do you not own your own genetic genes? It's just a given. Like you can give, I think it's like you give permission for someone to use them as they want. And you could sign your rights away, but I think
that's a scary thing,
isn't it?
Because even signing up permission to use it for something, for disease or research, you sign it and now they can do anything they want. Well, you signed 10 years ago that we could do this, and now they're cloning or doing something. That's scary where that could go.
And who's going to get it? Because once one place is done with it, if you don't own, they could turn around and sell it to somebody else.
They sell your personal information already. These places sell all your data to other places. That's where you get all the junk mail and stuff. So who polices this and keeps that from happening?
Right. And this is, a much more serious...
Way more
than that.
Oh, yeah.
You think it takes identity theft to a whole different level.
Way different. I mean, these people that can get away with so much with just your, say, virtual ID, now they've got your genetics.
Basically what they're proposing at the end of this, it says what is needed. We think it is essential for all of those involved in research and study participants to understand what protections are available and what their limitations are. That's why we've undertaken a comprehensive analysis of federal and state laws that combines to form what we call the web of protections. We want to be able to describe how the laws work together to identify gaps and to suggest ways to improve those protections, as well as how all this should be described to prospective research participants. To the extent that the current laws fall short of the types of protections and controls expected by the participants in research studies. That, yeah.
That's way too scary.
It just really is. And then they're addressing also in this article, because they're talking about nanobots, and a lot of people nanotechnology really don't know what that is and what that means. And basically it's an artificial intelligence, again back to the artificial intelligence, and I'm going to read this. Origins of nanotechnology. Most historians credit the concept of nanotechnology to physicist Richard Feynman and his 1959 speech, "There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom." In his speech, Feynman imagined a day when machines could be miniaturized and huge amounts of information could be encoded in minuscule spaces, paving the way for disruptive technology developments. They basically say, what does this mean? All right, so to give you a perspective on this, here's how to visualize a nanometer. The ratio of the Earth to a child's marble is roughly the ratio of a meter to a nanometer. It is a million times smaller than the length of an ant. That's crazy. They go on with more and more. The really strange part about using this, or the good part is that it's a machine that can build and manipulate things precisely at an atomic level. Imagine a robot that can pluck, pick, and place atoms like a kid plays with Lego bricks, able to build anything from basic atomic building blocks. So they want to use this for treatment, for genetic makeup and all that sort of thing, but for treatments too, for very, very specific cancer type things, and they're testing it out. Do you remember this movie? Oh my gosh, Martin. The guy was on Saturday Night Live.
Martin Short?
Yep, Martin Short was in it, and I'm trying to think of the actor, Dennis Quaid. And they shrunk down and they went inside somebody's body. There's been other movies like that since. This was a comedy. This was done, movie easily 30 years ago. And sure enough,
don't remember that movie.
There's not real people. They have miniaturized the people, but they've miniaturized little AI robots that can do amazing things inside of our bodies and elsewhere for that matter. It does say, here it is. Here are some of the more exciting things that these nano and micro machines can do. Cancer treatment, drug delivery mechanism, medical imaging, new sensing devices, information storage devices, new energy systems, ocean cleaning, replicators, health centers, connecting our brains to the internet. Oh my!
That's scary.
And guess whose name is on this one? Connecting Ray Kurzweil or Kurzweil. I don't know how to say this guy's name. I always talk about him with the transhumanism stuff on the show.
Oh, that's why it sounds familiar.
Believes nano robots will allow us to connect our biological nervous system to the cloud by 2030.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
That's all I got. Wow.
So that, and I do want to end the segment on one of my favorite things to do, which is craziest laws that still exist in the United States.
And don't forget, ignorance is no excuse of the law.
Right? All right. So here we go. Well, first of all, what's really kind of strange about it is that they talk about if you allow your donkey to sleep in a bathtub, you're an ass. If you allow it while you're in Arizona, you're a criminal. According to a law made in 1924, it is illegal for donkeys to sleep in bathtubs. Who knew?
Who thinks of these things, and why would anybody care?
I don't know.
Why?
Why exactly? Well, who was there an issue? Was there a problem where just lots of people were, walking a donkey up, 3 flights into their apartment and putting it in the bathtub?
Well, or what? Because some guy's wife wanted to take a bath and the donkey was in the way? I don't get it.
George, you got the donkey in the bathtub again. Get it out. What?
In 1924, that wasn't even really all that long ago when you think about it,
No,
in terms of why.
I don't know, but I love these things.
It's hilarious.
In Alabama, I don't have the years on these, but in Alabama, it is illegal to wear a fake mustache that causes laughter in church. I totally want to just go to Alabama.
I just want to go to. No kidding. Now I just want to go to church.
I think it's. You should have the nose and the glasses with it. That little plastic whole mustache nose glass, and people giggle, and then they'll have to arrest me. I want to go to court for this. I just want, and then call the news stations in. Yeah, I had this fake mustache on, and I'm going to jail.
That's pretty funny because these days that seems to be all the rage, is these fake mustaches for birthday parties and different things. You see the kids wanting all these fake mustaches.
I just was at a kids party, and they had that. Good thing we didn't go to church afterwards.
Ooh, you would have been in trouble.
Yep. All right. In Alaska, it is illegal to wake a sleeping bear to take a photo. You know what?
Because I'd want to do that anyway.
They don't. I think they should take that law off the books simply because if you're that stupid,
you deserve
whatever's going to happen afterwards.
Whatever the bear's got.
I wonder if you're in Alaska but you're in a zoo. You could actually still get arrested for taking a picture of a bear if it was sleeping.
Wow.
Again, why? I don't understand. But Arizona, it is illegal. Oh, that was the donkey one. Okay, in Arkansas, it is illegal to mispronounce Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah, if you say Arkansas, if you say Arkansas or something else, Arkansas, it's illegal.
If that was illegal to mispronounce Illinois, we could certainly collect the fine and maybe pay off the state debt. I mean, how many people do you know that still calls it Illinois?
Usually people not from Illinois.
Well, but if it's illegal, it's illegal.
That's true. We could get a lot of money. It's like a speed trap. It'll be like a word trap. Hey, welcome to, where are you? Illinois. Oh, ding, ding, ding. I'm ticketing you $100 for entry.
Man, that would be there. That might be the ticket right there. Solve a lot of the debt.
California, a frog that dies during a frog jumping contest cannot legally be eaten.
Where do you find these?
Sometimes you don't even know what to say. Colorado, it is illegal to ride a horse while under the influence. Well, that is ridiculous because I'm sure there's a lot of people riding around illegally.
Right? That should be in every state.
You know what? I can sort of see that one being on the books, though, because that one kind of actually makes sense because it's sort of like drinking and driving a car.
True.
People can get hurt.
And the animal can get hurt.
And the animal can get hurt. But the animal could hurt a lot of other people while you're deciding to ride around drunk and, whatever. So surprisingly, that one kind of makes sense to me.
It does. It's the only one so far.
In Connecticut, a pickle cannot be legally considered a pickle unless it bounces.
Why would you bounce a pickle?
To see if it's really a pickle, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. I have issues about bouncing my food before I eat it. Well, I guess it depends on what you're bouncing it on. I mean, I wouldn't want to bounce it off the floor.
There's a 5-second rule. You're okay with that. You can eat it.
What if it takes longer to bounce? Well, then you're not going to eat it anyway because it's not a pickle.
There you go. Problem solved.
Oh my gosh.
In Florida, if an elephant is left tied to a parking meter, the parking fee has to be paid just as it would for a vehicle.
Well, I would hope so because it's taking up as much room or more.
It's taking up a few parking spots, though, wouldn't it? Again, when did this happen that somebody took an elephant down the street, said, I feel like getting an ice cream cone, ties up their elephant. First of all, what the heck are they doing with an elephant? And ties it to...
Well, and here's the thing. It's limited to just the elephant. What about maybe somebody riding a horse? Or how about your camel?
Camels are fine. So are crocodiles, apparently. You just cannot tie your elephant to a parking meter. All right. And we'll just do a few more. In Georgia, it is illegal to keep an ice cream cone in your back pocket on Sundays. Oh, come on. That
Any other day of the week,
you're
going to keep an ice cream cone in your pocket.
That cannot even be real.
Well, first of all, who would keep an ice cream cone longer than it takes to eat it anyway? This from somebody who loves her ice cream.
A 3-year-old.
Oh, gee, I'll just put this in my back pocket.
They might.
Not.
They might. As it's dripping all over the place. But I was just going to keep it for later. You can't do that, honey. And then they cry because they have no ice cream now. I mean, they try licking their pockets, doesn't work. Hawaii. Coins
this ought to be good.
Coins are not allowed to be placed in one's ear. Well, apparently, if my brother, when he as a child lived in Hawaii, he would have been arrested because he was sticking all kinds of things in his ears, apparently.
But is there an age limit to these laws? Like, you have to be an adult to be convicted of a crime? 18 years of age or older, or this is for any...
you would think, yeah, because that statement seems to imply that you would immediately think children. They stick things in their nose and anywhere they can. But if an adult is doing it, again, take the law away. Why make a law? If they're stupid, just let it go.
How did they become laws in the first place?
That is a mystery. That's the mystery.
Even back in the day, didn't they have to go through the process of, becoming a bill and then a law and all that? So it had to pass through several people before it was officially, yes, we're going to make this a law. How?
I don't know. I don't know. I was going to do one more, but I'm going to do two more. One more, this next one, or I should say, is Idaho. And apparently it is illegal to give your sweetheart a box of chocolates weighing more than 50 pounds. I think they should make this a law in all states, and you should have a 20-pound cutoff. This would save a lot of people on especially a lot of women on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, but even 20 is an awful lot.
Well, I don't want to, can we spread it out, freeze them. We don't want to get crazy here and take it down to like a pound. Some women love their chocolate. All right, I had to go do one. I had to get this last one in because this is Illinois, and that's the state that we live in. It is legal for a minor to drink as long as he or she is enrolled in a culinary program. Ooh, there's a loophole.
What? There's a loophole.
Especially because check this out. I'm going to help all these underage drinkers now. Great. But you could do online. So you'd be like 15 or 16 years old and sign yourself up for some online culinary. Well, it says program, but course, same difference, I would think. And you could go out, and then the cop says, hey, you're underage, I'm going to arrest you, and as long as you have a copy with where that statute is, here's the law. It says I can drink, and here's my enrollment. They can't get in trouble.
That
well, at least with the law.
Interesting.
Yeah. That is a loophole that
how many know
fixed.
About that?
Well, more do now. More do now. And yes, kids, you can thank me. And yes, parents, you can hate me for it.
Oh, my goodness.
So that is our Weird World News and what you didn't know for this show this evening.
Cool. So much better to now know these things.
It is. So thanks, Pam, for helping out tonight.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And we'll move on. Please know that a portion of this program is sponsored by Chum Bucket Studios. Chum Bucket Studios for all of your printing and graphic needs. I personally know the owner of this company, very creative, very imaginative. He actually did the banner I use at conferences and will be doing some of my tabletop and wall displays also. So if it's printed needs, display needs, I highly suggest using Chum Bucket Studios. Go take a break right now and be back with some fascinating guest interviews. Stay tuned and smile.
Have you ever wanted to spruce up the marketing material for your business? Have you ever wanted to turn those memories you have on slides or VHS tapes into DVDs? Have you ever wanted to create the perfect personalized video for a loved one? Then look no further. The sky is the limit with Chum Bucket Studios. Anything is possible because it all begins with a little imagination. Please visit www.chumbucketstudios.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Paranormal MD. I'm Maureen Marshall, your host, and I am at the Global Pyramid Conference doing live interviews with the speakers. Right here now joining me is Dr. Maureen Clemmons, who is the President of Transformations and Innovation and Change Management Consulting Practice in Los Angeles. We'll have to ask her about that. She holds a doctorate in organization change from Pepperdine University, as well as an Executive MBA. Her work is currently the subject of a History Channel documentary. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I said where to start. There's a few different ways we could go here. You know what? Let's make it easy for people listening at home. If you would tell me a little bit about your personal history and what brought you into the research with the pyramids that you've done and are doing now.
I was born and raised in Connecticut, moved to California and received my education, my formal education. And it was real simple. In 1997, I was reading an article in Smithsonian Magazine about a valiant crew of researchers who were trying to erect a 40-ton obelisk. And they were pushing and pulling using manual labor, and they only got the obelisk to about 40 degrees. And I said to myself, there has to be something so simple and so obvious that's literally been staring us in the face for millennia. So I'm going to try to think of something. And I remembered how Captain Oleg, the sneaky Viking who conquered Constantinople, he couldn't cross the Bay of the Bosporus because the chain of the Bosporus was across the bay. So he took his longship to the landward side, put his longships on log rollers, raised his sails, and sailed overland into the city gates and conquered Constantinople. And I thought to myself, the Egyptians are sailors, the Vikings are sailors, the folks that sailed the Bluestones to Stonehenge are sailors. Is it possible these folks harnessed an abundant natural resource to build their monuments?
That's amazing that you thought this, because, like you said, for 1,000 years and more, people ponder this, and it's one of those why didn't someone come up with this before? So brilliant on your part. So now there's a documentary coming out on this, and you have let me restart that over. You have a documentary coming out on this. Is this we're going to watch the process of how this is done?
The doctorate came out several years ago through the History Channel. The name of the documentary is called Flying Pyramids, Soaring Stones, and it documents our field research where we actually lifted a 3.5-ton obelisk off the ground in 25 seconds of airtime using a kite. And then we went on to erect a 16-ton obelisk using wind as the motive force.
That's amazing. Now, for those listening that may not know what an obelisk is, because people are going, what the heck is that? Would you mind telling me?
An obelisk is a single piece of stone shaped like the Washington Monument. It's a tapering column with a pyramidion at the top.
It's quite heavy. What would you say? They're all different as far as the weights on it too, but an average
obelisks in antiquity ranged from 40 tons to 450 tons.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know. 450 tons. Wow.
And if you think about it, we put 450-ton Boeing 747s in the air every day just by creating an artificial wind. This is no different. We just need to work on the control systems.
I'm just sitting here amazed because it seems like such a simple and obvious, and yet nobody but you has gotten that. That's wonderful. So when you were in there, when the first experience of doing this, rather than just on model size, what was going through your head at the time?
Well, I've done a variety of, the Egyptians were fantastic model makers, and I'm assuming they did a lot of their experiments on a model size, because using models, you can make a lot of your most significant mistakes in controllable conditions using models. So I started with a 12-inch obelisk, then went to a 400-pound obelisk, then a 2.5-ton obelisk, then a 3.5-ton obelisk, then a 16-ton obelisk, then a 6-ton pyramid, a 24-ton step pyramid, and then a 106-ton true pyramid. And throughout all this process, people ask me what was my most exciting part. And believe it or not, it was the simple 400-pound obelisk with a simple children's kite. That once I saw that, I knew that you could easily extrapolate that to a larger monument. When I saw that simple 400-pound obelisk get pulled up over and started getting dragged downfield by a simple children's kite, just as Goddard started with handheld rockets in his aunt's cabbage patch before he went on to moon rockets, when you see a simple experiment like that work with facility, you realize you can easily extrapolate that to monuments.
That's exciting. I'm sure it has to be really exciting, because you're like, I knew it as this is going, and you're just like, okay, now I know I'm on the right path with this. So when it gets larger, are you using something then, like, because like you said, there are being sailors, like ship sails, in that type of size for the larger ton? Is that still being moved the same way as a smaller kite? I don't know.
Whenever I had a challenge with engineering, I went to the hieroglyphs, and I pulled most of the engineering solutions to my engineering problems from the hieroglyphs. And I would like to do a shout out, because in this brief radio interview, there were hundreds of people involved in this project. And I do not have the time to be able to sit here and elucidate the contributions of all these wonderful people and their contributions to this project. But from my perspective, whenever I had a challenge in engineering, I went to the hieroglyphs and received my answer.
So in a sense, that was directions or tool to you use, correct?
Yes, what I saw in the hieroglyphs were practical tools. And I believe that many of these symbols that we see in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs are literally the tools that they used to erect their monuments. And so I use these tools in the field to great effectiveness.
Could you give me an example of something that one of the hieroglyphs, get it out, that you would see? What did it look like, or what was it that and what was it that then made you indicated to you, I need to be paying attention to this?
Well, I can give you the lightning rod that changed my perception. When I was out with my 400-pound obelisk in a 25-mile-an-hour wind, the kite line would slice through my leather gloves and slice my hands open. I was almost losing fingers.
Oh my gosh.
And as I learned in retrospect, as the wind speed goes up arithmetically, the lift capacity goes up geometrically. So I was almost losing my fingers and my hands through this kite line. I had to find a way to control the kite line without losing my hands. So I was looking through the hieroglyphs, and I noticed everybody was holding an ankh. You were not cool unless you were holding an ankh.
What is that?
An ankh is a type of a cross with a loop at the top. And I was told my entire life that it's the Egyptian symbol for life. But when you look it up in the hieroglyph dictionary, its definition is actually breath of life. And when I first saw this ankh, I'm like, I have an engineering problem, and I looked at the shape of the Ankh and I said, this looks an awful lot like a figure eight or a carabiner that rock climbers use to control line. So I went to some pretty strange places in Los Angeles trying to find some Ankhs. Usually involved a lot of crystals and incense. But I found some Ankhs, and I gave them to a rock climber, and he showed me 6 different ways to use this tool. And sure enough, in the hieroglyphs, everywhere you look, there looks to be rope or line around the cross piece of the Ankh. And it works right-handed, works left-handed. It's a great way to control kite line without losing your fingers.
Wow. That is... How many years? Because I know it can't be months. How many years is this a process has this been that led?
That's a very good question. Most people think I do this full time. It's a weekend thing. And I started in January 1997 when I first read the article about these valiant researchers trying to do this project. And I've been working on it since then, sometimes heavily, sometimes not. But I've been invited to erect a 22.5-ton obelisk in 2017 in Bismarck, North Dakota, in front of the new $30 million Gateway to Science building overlooking the Missouri. And this will be 20 years. And I'm like, hoping this will be my capstone. Because I've been building pyramids and obelisks since 1997. So I'm very much hoping that this new Bismarck obelisk will be a capstone.
That is amazing. That is really a really... It's a monument, a monumental accomplishment, literally, to have that. I think probably, again, for people listening, what is something that you, or maybe a couple different things that are important that you want people to know about this, about the process, about maybe even something that you went through in the process? I know, an open question there.
Well, I was invited to address 1,200 STEAM teachers in Bismarck, North Dakota last year. And STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. And right now there's a lot of emphasis on STEM, which is Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. But I would encourage folks to look at art as well, because I did my dissertation on innovation and innovators. And it was interesting when you look at the rubrics of the nature of innovators. One of the tendencies of innovators is they have a high appreciation for art. And so if you look at the art of Leonardo da Vinci, he was a consummate scientist, but a consummate artist. And if I could say one thing, it would be, do not discount art as merely something with crayons. Art is something that really helps you understand complex systems in a simple visual way.
I could totally see that. And it really would be a statement for the people in the periods of time of how what you're looking at and how that's going to change. That's your next project. You're going to have to start comparing these things and looking at another 20 years later, right? But, well, I'm going to thank you very much for being part of the show. You know what, for people listening, can you give us a website and where they can go and find more information?
Well, I don't maintain a website on this, but if you just YouTube or Google my name,
which is Dr. Maureen Clemmons, Clemmons.
It'll come up.
You're like pages on Google, aren't you?
It'll come up. So I get a lot of calls from students who are doing a research paper on Egypt, a lot of 6th graders and 8th graders. I felt really bad one time. I got this student that asked for some information, and I'm so used to 6th graders doing homework, I didn't realize it was a postgraduate student. And so Please, if you need information, please let me know your level of education, because I've done this presentation literally from preschoolers to elementary school, middle school, high school, graduate, and then postgraduate students. So if you need some information, please give me a heads up. What grade are you in?
It makes a difference, right? And what information and how you're going to relay the information.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The postgraduate was probably like, why is she talking to me like a kindergartner as they're going through it? But that's true. You're not a mind reader. Well, again, thank you very much for being part of this show. I will let you get back to the conference, and thank you for your contributions.
Thank you.
We need to take a brief break. Please stay tuned, grab a drink, and smile. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Robin Terry from Ashmore Estates. Ashmore Estates is located about a mile west of Ashmore, Illinois. It was a former almshouse or poor farm, and then later a psychiatric care facility. If you're not familiar with Ashmore Estates, you might have seen us on Ghost Adventures, Season 5, Episode 1, or in a documentary called Chill in the Grave 2 by the Booth Brothers. There have been major improvements to the property since May of 2014. We have electrical, windows, restrooms, a separate team room, and even bunkhouses for overnight guests. I think you'll find the building an interesting place to perform an investigation, either at night or in the day. We also offer photo shoots, historical tours, and a location for movies to be filmed. Check us out on our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or on our website at ashmoreestates.net.
Hi, this is Chin Hee Park.
And this is Soon Hee Park. We're the Korean-Italian twin psychics.
We listen to the Paranormal MD radio show. Check it out. It's too cool.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I am your host, Mary Marshall. We just had a commercial there for Ashmore Estates. I'm actually going to be speaking at Haunted Ashmore Estates this September. They're having their 100th birthday celebration. It is going to be such an awesome event. There are great speakers there. There's going to be investigations led by some para-celebrities, if you will. There's also going to be a masquerade ball. Anybody who's anybody, and even if you're not, is going to be there. So I highly suggest coming and checking it out, getting your tickets. I'm sure they're going to be selling out. So again, check out the Ashmore Estates 100th birthday celebration bash this September. So now that you're settled back in, let's get back to the interviews from the Global Pyramid Conference. Hello and welcome back. You are listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I am your host, Mary Marshall. I am still here at the Global Pyramid Conference 2016. And the guest that has joined us is John Shaughnessy. John has his professional achievements as an engineer, inventor, writer, and a contributor to theoretical physics. I love that. And that's right up my alley. John has been an independent researcher of ancient technologies for over 30 years. His first book, Pyramid Gravity Force, published in 2012, is about his discovery of ancient technologies on how all Earth's large pyramids align with sister volcanoes and work with Moon's gravitational force for specific geo-engineering purposes. This is fascinating. All right,
Thank you.
First,
Thank you. Yeah.
to help everybody listening, can you kind of guide us into a little about your personal history that led you to where you are now?
I've always been interested in, ancient societies, technologies, lost civilizations, or remnants of, human civilizations from as far back as I can remember. So, anything, supernatural, paranormal, I was in on it. I just loved it. So, I got into the astronomical world. There, I used to work at the planetarium in Boston as just a kid taking tickets on the weekend. I'd run around the outside of the planetarium, changing the old Bell and Howell little slides, during the show, and pushing the reel-to-reel TAC songs on and off during timed segments through a show, and so I got into it. And on the weekends, I had the place to myself. In the morning, I could go in, put the Zeiss projector on, and illuminate the whole dome with the stars. And just be alone with my thoughts. Of course, I would be playing some Pink Floyd or some Led Zeppelin. I was 16, so it one of the best stereo systems on the planet at the time. So it opened my mind, and I've been in the heavens ever since. I guess every once in a while I come back to Earth, and I got into a lot of physics. I read Einstein's theory of relativity. Big fan of Newtonian physics, all on my own. I read this stuff on my own, so it wasn't like I was going for a degree or anything. It's very, very strange. But anyways,
I totally understand, because where I started out, I did not have. I remember hating science in grammar school. Starting all the way back then, and then I realized somewhere along the way, when did this happen?
Yeah.
When did I become like a geek?
Yeah,
in a good way.
Right.
In a good way, but that was that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And really enjoying the topic matter. I think it's a lot of self-study.
Now, what would your teachers be thinking today if they could hear you? I don't know where they are, but it's like,
they would say,
it's like, oh my God.
I know exactly what they were saying, because this is a phrase my mother heard.
Right.
She has so much potential.
Oh God, yeah. If he would only use his mind.
She would just apply herself, right?
Yeah,
the potential and apply yourself.
Yeah, I was window watching 101. If there was a window in the room, forget it.
So teachers would be very happy. They'd say, "You finally applied yourself, Mary."
Yeah, there you go.
Yours might say the same.
Same thing, yeah.
What type of engineer?
Power plant engineering.
Okay.
So fossil fuels, boilers. What do you call it? Steam turbines. I get into the big gas turbine, environment there in the 90s. Doing a lot of startups and new power plants, aeroderivative, industrial gas turbines, and get into that, and it just
I bet you that's helped you
that.
with the inventing.
I was always did the inventing. I was inventing, all the time. Since I was a youngster, I'd innovate and do things, and I'd see my ideas, being patented, people making money on them. But it wasn't stolen from me. It was just something, that was out there in the human consciousness, and
right.
So hey, I thought of that, But anyways, so I did a little inventing. Got some small patents. I have patent applications in on a few things today. Just waiting to see if I get some coverage, get some claims.
Would be nice.
Yeah, it's a little income potential. One I had was on. Big, simple things that just, tell you that the bathtub was full. But it worked on the water flow going into the tub. There's no electronics, and basically water conservation device. Just bringing more consciousness into, saving water, in a lot of places.
And that's a lot. People are looking for that sort of thing these days. So good. I wish you luck on that. Hope so.
Yeah. So I've moved on to the pyramids now.
I was just going to say. Tell me a little bit about, and I'll have some specific questions, but the pyramid gravity force. What first did you feel the need to write it? What is it about?
Yeah, I got the download as a lot of these people, that get these big, light bulb on ideas, the aha, I was walking into my living room one day, the TV was on, and Makio Aku was on the channel, and I was waltzing over like I've done a million times before to sit my body into the lazy chair, and I let go, and I was just sinking into the chair, and I caught the last words before it broke for a commercial, and that was, "We still don't know what these pyramids are for," So I'm sitting in the chair. I have a globe in the corner of the room. I look at the globe. And I'm like, geez, I wonder what's on the other side of Giza. I don't know where it came in. It just came into my head. I mean, I've been obsessed with pyramids and ancient technology, anyways. But that was the thought. So the globe was like 15 feet away, and so I got up. I took the big trek across the living room, spun the globe, found Giza. That was a miracle. And then 180 degrees away from Giza, on the opposite side of the planet, same approximate latitude, was the Hawaiian hotspot. So I said, well, the Hawaiian island, Kilauea. So I was like, well, that's odd. Why? That's a pretty, straight line straight through the planet at that latitude, where Giza lines right up with the Hawaiian hotspot. So I said, well, that's odd. And I'm thinking, well, are there any other pyramid volcano alignments? And then I spun the globe a couple, and I knew where all these places were. I went to the Pyramid of the Sun, 180 degrees away from that. You had Sri Lanka. And on Sri Lanka, there's a dormant volcano called Mount Sigiriya. It has a magma plug in it, and it's got big giant stone claws at the base of it. It's just lost, another story lost to humanity. Nobody knows where it came from, who did it, or whatever. So that was a little odd. And then I waltzed over to the Shen Pyramids, 180 degrees away from the Shen Pyramids, the Bermuda Island, which is basically made up of two super calderas. And then after 100 some odd alignments, I said, okay, this is observable evidence. This is not an anomaly. This is there's something going on. I got some gravity experience behind my self-taught, and I said, well, it's got to be the only connection here is gravity. And then I got the download on it. I started saying, okay, well, what are they doing? What's all this about, and what's driving it? And then I realized that the biggest gravity player on the planet is the moon. Runs the tides every day, trillions of tons of water. You get your high tide, and then unbeknownst to a lot of people, when you have a high tide on the moon side, you also have a high tide on the moonless side. Well, how's that work?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, what's going on here? There's been some attempts to explain it over the years, and my explanation, I might be biased, but it seems to make a little bit more sense, is that it's, you're flexing the gravitational bubble off the planet, and you're actually lowering the gravitational field on the moonless side, and that's allowing the bulge to happen, give you a high tide. Okay? Now that's just that's observable evidence. You can see that every day. It's not, we're not making it up. There's a high tide on the moon side, and then there's a high tide on the moon side. 24 hours a day it happens, So so then it's like, okay, the moon is lensing, or the gravitational fields from the moon are lensing inside the center line of the pyramids, and they're creating a dense gravitational field when it's in alignment with the moon, and it's lowering the gravitational field on the opposite side of the planet. And what's that doing in a volcano is that's allowing the magma to overcome the gravitational field and basically come up through the hotspot.
Right.
Hawaiian hotspot to date doesn't have a real good explanation of why it exists. There's 5 or 6 theories out there, but they're they're not sound. They're all theoretical. There's no real nobody's mentioned the moon. For one, the moon's been on the pay no never mind list for 5,000 years now. I don't know, somewhere along the line it got tossed overboard and it's just the sun, but it's actually the moon that is the elixir of life on the planet. That's, without the moon there's no intelligent life, For the most part, it's just a big puddle, So, but maybe some algae,
You don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, that is true with how the moon is going to function, and you're right. There is this sun and moon and the energy and. Yeah,
there's a big energy field. There's a big white thing in the sky that really has a lot going, a lot of energy going on. So with that, I got into, got some formulas together to satisfy the intellectual, scientific community, and it just fell in. So I got the download. I said, I got to get this out of me. It was just like I got a download of 45,000 words in like 10 minutes. I said, okay, I got to get this out of my head. 3 days before, I didn't have any notion of writing a book. So again, going back to our school teachers, they would have been that would have been voted least likely to write a book for sure, by all of them, So wrote the book, just, was inspired, and just started hitting the keys and trying to make trying to make it legible and, bring it down to, because it's theoretical physics, So I guess, I'm at the street level, so it's easy for me to bring it down to the street level.
You know what? I do understand that, because that's a lot of what I will relay out. It's in layman terms, because I think you have a lot of complicated language that when I'm reading it, I obviously understand and get it, but it doesn't need to be presented that way to people.
Right.
Put it in it. Okay, so you've got a wormhole, and it's a really, thick gravitational. You're going to stop.
Right.
You're not coming out the others. Whatever. You're just putting it in language that's easy.
Yeah, it's simple. It is.
It's complicated.
I mean, it's actually it doesn't do anybody any favors by complicating, the information and creating language that nobody understands. And basically, a lot of times I'll see some great, minds in science and physics, and they get some great ideas, concepts, and then they just drift off into mathematical hell. We never see them again. They're just doing equations. They're coming back, and they're talking about the size of the proton. It's like, well, what's that going to do for Joe down the street?
Right, but it's good for...
It's nice to understand, this, that, and the other thing at the subatomic level, but...
And they do need to do that to further the field, the understanding, but see, you know what? That's not their gift. You have another person that comes along and is going to take the work that they're doing and be able to relay it to people in an understanding way.
I don't want to be critical of just, drawing the contrast between where I'm from and where this other half of this industry is at. Well, actually, 99% of them are in that environment. So I'm kind of like outside the completely off the. I'm off the grid. Like I'm coming from outside, and they're like, and I'm like, I did a presentation last night, and I said, I'm just here to point out the obvious. Simple observations. This lines up with that. That lines up with this. And then I backed it up by going further. I'm saying, okay, pyramids line up with volcanoes now. If that's true, then mountains have to line up with mountains. Continents have to line up with continents. Otherwise, this whole theory is toast, right? So I went out and lined up mountains lined up with mountains. Himalayas line up with the mountain ranges in the U.S. Mount Kailash lines up with Yellowstone. We can get in that in a few minutes, but. So all these mountain ranges line up with mountain ranges. Continents line up with continents.
So
the gravity.
Of the ley line?
No, it's completely different. But gravity has a self-balancing mechanism in it. And basically, if you put something on this side of the planet 180 degrees away from it, just like the pyramids along the gravitational field in a magma chamber in a volcano, if I build a 6 million ton pyramid on this side of the planet, I'm going to create a volcano on the other side of the planet, or I'm going to lower the gravitational field where it's going to allow land to heave up, plates to heave up and balance it off. So in effect, what I've done is come in contrast or come in conflict with the running theory of Pangea, where Pangea, we had a supercontinent, and then they all separated, and that's why all the continents look like they go together in a puzzle. So, I sent a letter off to the Department of Education to have all those books thrown away because they're wrong. Because it may be something to do with the future, but if all the landmass was on one side of the planet would have ripped itself apart. Traveling at 1,200 miles an hour, everybody knows what a wheel feels like going down a highway that's out of balance. It just gets worse and worse and worse. In the same situation. The reason the continents look like they fit together is because of the mid-ocean ridges between them. The mid-ocean ridges break east and west, and they feed, the particular new magma, if you will, the virgin magma coming up out of the mid-ocean ridge, and they feed, east and west. And that's why you have these shapes that all look like they fit together. It's the mid-ocean ridges that are, that they're replicating, So I'm just tossing everything right out the window with all this, all my theories.
You know what? That's happening more and more these days.
People need to know. You need to
What
look
we were
at
taught in
what's
school
going
is
on.
not
It's
the reality.
At the time, it was a great idea. I heard of some kid in 8th grade saying these things all look like they fit together. And then next thing you know, it's being published as fact. So
Yeah, exactly.
I forget what the theory before that was, but so.
So is it fair, because obviously the mountain ranges, the volcanoes, different things, those are where they are.
Right.
Do you then, the next step or question would be that that pyramids were built in those areas where they are now specifically for alignment purposes? In a magnetic field type of.
And there's different applications for building a pyramid and puncturing a hole in a tectonic plate. It's magma control. Today, everybody knows the volcanic activity is off the charts. I mean, every volcano that's going to erupt has been erupting, and there's other ones rumbling around the globe. And the light beings, or the sophisticated society that was here that built these particular pyramids, said, we could all get a good night's sleep if we punch a hole in this tectonic plate over here and relieve some of the magma pressure. So consequently, the alignments that I told you earlier, they punched a hole in the Pacific plate, the Hawaiian Islands. They punched it I need water, but anyway, you got any, something to drink. But anyways, they punctured a hole in the Indian plate, and they punctured a hole in the Atlantic plate. Sweet, thank you. So with that in mind, that was done for magma control on the planet. So there's one constant erupting volcano right now, and that's Kilauea, that's running off a pyramid. And there's other active volcanoes, I think Mount Etna, but it's not in the same classification as Hawaiian hotspot.
I'm going to stop you because, again, for those listening, when you use a term like it's running off a pyramid, you are implying
it's lensing the gravitational field from the moon, lowering the gravitational field in that hotspot, and allowing magma to come up and dribble out. So actually, a constant erupting volcano is a lot better than a natural volcano. Mount St. Helens, for instance, that would, that's rumbling again. That was, I think in the 80s, I believe, that erupted. It was just a horrific environmental disaster that, affected the whole globe. Well, if you had a high output in the Hawaiian hotspot, which would entail you, building bigger pyramids in Giza, or closing them up and fixing them and bringing them back to their true geometrical shape, and actually like lenses, the gravitational lenses. This is all basically, it follows optic physics. If you look at a magnifying glass and you put it in front of the sun, you don't look at it, but you grab the sun and you can focus photons into a tight spot. You're in essence, you're condensing the flow of a subatomic particle, which is a photon. Well, if one subatomic particle can be focused into a tight focal point, so can another one. So that's where the theory has gone. Gravitons get focused into a tight focal point inside the center line of the pyramids. And a lot of times in the pyramids you'll have chambers, or like the king's chambers, queen chambers, subterranean chambers. Most of your pyramids have a little tiny pocket in them. They've been misunderstood as being tombs, places to bury people, the pharaohs, the chief, the big chief, what have you. Those are actually focal points of that particular pyramid. And a lot of times, from what I would do, or what I've gathered, my understanding is that they would fill these particular chambers up with dense material, be it gold, silver, what else? Uranium, raw uranium, what have you. And that would increase the gravitational field on that particular pyramid and give you more output in the Hawaiian hotspot. So like to say, NASA said, hey, John, we need to, diffuse this Yellowstone time bomb that everybody's worried about. what can you do for us? And I said, well, go over to Giza, fix the pyramids, close them up, put some mass inside the chambers. That'll increase the output of the Hawaiian hotspot, and call up Hawaii, give them a heads up. Hey, look, there might be a little bit more magma coming out. And that would in fact lower the magma chamber under Yellowstone, bleed off a lot of that pressure that's built up. Even though it's 1,000+ miles away, it's still in that magma current,
It's fascinating to me how connected, and I always say this like universal consciousness, but there's a universal connection of one thing lending itself to the other. Because there's various ways you could approach a topic matter with the pyramids, just saying, using that. And the fact that this is affecting what we consider natural, I don't even know how I want to phrase it, but the volcanoes and natural sources, in other ways, as far as the gravitational across from one area,
there's evidence. It's observable evidence. Mountains line up with mountains. I mean, it's just everything in the universe is spherical. Mountains. I mean, planets, moons, galaxies. They all even the bands coming off a galaxy have an opposite band on the other side of it. I mean, it's just
matter and antimatter.
Yeah, it's all relative. Not to steal Einstein's word there, but it just rolls.
As I say,
I get into the staring. It was just relative. Well, that's that relates to this, that relates to that, and so you get into the mindset of the planet builders, the guys that came in and tweaked this planet. And that was basically what do you want to do? What does a sophisticated society do? It has control over its environment. It has control over the temperature. It has control over the magma. It has control over the tides. And they use these systems, the pyramids, to control magma. So, like right now, you have a lot of. You had that bad Japanese tidal wave over there, caused Fukushima.
Yeah.
You could, rebuild the pyramids down in Central America or Mexico and open up that dormant hotspot on Sri Lanka. And that would relieve a lot of the magma pressure that's built up in that particular part of the world. So that was the understanding. It's just a relief valve. That's all it is. The pressure builds up, it blows out, so. One
of the things, though, is that we're talking about the dating of these pyramids. Thousands of years.
Right.
What we know and what we don't know is how were they intellectually capable? They did not have the tools we have now to determine a lot of these factors. So, in your opinion, was it the people born of this? Because there are these theories of this planet. Are you thinking ancient alien? Are you thinking how did they come about saying, gravity at this point hits and it affects the magma, we're controlling.
It's a big stumbling block because you're going up a pretty well regulated, sophisticated learning institutions on the planet, and that they're you start talking hundreds of thousands of millions of years, and they just they're running for the doors, so
everybody's hesitant who works who works in real time fact, which you have, are always hesitant to make that, to say anything over here, because they're like, then I'm not going to be taken seriously for this.
Right. Well, the good thing is,
but I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I'm going out. I don't have tenure at a college, and I can say whatever I want. That's not going to change my annual income. Is not going to go up or down based on what I'm thinking. But logically speaking, you would have to, if this observable evidence is to be taken serious, we would have to assume that there was a high tech society that came, was on the earth. I mean, I think they were all humans. I think we rise and fall, and we go into this interglacial water age, if you will. Everything warms up. You get 13,000, 14,000 years at best, and then you go right back into an ice age, and then the human population gets throttled down back to hunter-gatherer, and you lose your history because you put everything on a CD. And people that made the batteries forgot how to do it, or whatever. I mean, we really don't have anything that can basically withstand a big hit as far as our technology. It just go up in a matter of days. So the reality of it is the normal world that we live in is an ice age. It's 100,000 years in an ice age, then a 13,000 year interglacial. So you have the rise of humanity in these interglacials, and I think we're probably like D or C as far as our ascension into the high level that was before us at the last interglacial. I think they had a better system, and then they they didn't believe that we just blew in from the world 5,000 years ago, and that was the marching call, and everybody's brainwashed by it. So I think it's time to look back, take a step back and really look at the evidence that there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. I mean, we come in and out of the ice ages, and I think we just lose our knowledge, and then you come back in and you ascend again. Maybe something physically happens to us when we go into those environments where we don't have the cognitive reasoning, or the frontal lobes are shut down or what have you. But then you get into a Renaissance pyramid here, and you the light bulb goes on, and people start inventing and going back up again. But you have to look at the evidence.
You've got
the evidence.
Natural.
So I mean, you're going back millions of years. There's a woman, a doctor. She was an archaeologist. She found a modern human skeletal remain, 50 feet down buried inside of limestone next to a T-Rex or some kind of a dinosaur.
Lucy?
Yeah.
I think that was. I don't know if you did the wrong one.
But I mean, she wanted to publish it because that's what she does. She finds the evidence, she presents it, and then you get tenure to college and you sell your books. Well, they chased her down. There was a lynch mob. Just recently, she's coming back, on the circuit and regaining salvaging what she basically lost. They took her dreams away, and that's what you're going up against.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think
as a professional, thank God I'm not a professional.
Right. There's a lot of people I don't think that, especially those listening, understand that you
step out of the
really
line.
By mainstream, you can either get mocked. Or completely ignored, and it can ruin a career if you step and or think outside of the box.
Right.
And it's very difficult for people a lot of times to come forward. So I always think it's amazingly brave of people who have something like that to lose and put themselves out because they're passionate enough and say, no, people got to know whatever this is that they're talking about, to get it out there.
Yes, agree.
When you're dealing, because you're saying the mountains line and everything is aligning.
Yeah.
Is that due to, right from the beginning, the gravitational pulls of things, like you're saying, how it's going to lift on one?
Yeah.
Is that, besides the ice age? I mean, we know we were saying this is how it's formed.
Right.
But obviously, wouldn't gravity have an equal effect on the formation? As far as affecting, you have something on one side of the planet starts, let's say polar caps.
Right.
It's obviously is going to affect everything.
Yeah, that's that's at the top of the North Pole, South Pole. The ice caps are up in that area. If you go back to Genesis or the other religions, originally the planet was water. It was a water planet, just spherical. Not sure if the moon was there yet, but I don't buy the mainstream and the moon's part of the Earth thing. I think it was something completely different, but that's a whole different other book I'm working on right now.
So, there you go.
I mean, we just segue off into that, but so eventually the ice age came where the planet got cold while it was ice. So large ice masses grew up on, just say where North America was. Well, it lowered the gravitational field where the Himalayas now are.
Right.
So that was the first mountain range to come up.
Yeah.
So the Himalayas bursted straight through. Then we go through the thaw. The big chunk of ice that was on the planet is now gone. Now the Himalayas start lensing over where America is. That allows the American continents to come back up, rise up out of the sea through tectonic plate, merging or shifting or converging, volcanoes, other things until so it's a balancing mechanism between continents.
We're running out of time, but I do have a question because I know people are going to think this and ask it in some shape or form. How does this gravitational pull, the moon's effect, with the pyramids and alignment, affect us as people, or does it have an effect on us as human beings?
I don't really think it affects us too much. I mean, as far as like gravity's concerned, these are tight focal points at specific geographical locations. But I think this system, the one that's still in play right now, the Giza Plateau, and the Hawaiian hotspot, I think if that were to fall to ruin, the pyramids out there, and we allowed that hotspot to, basically go dormant, and we lost it, I think you'd have a heck of a lot more volcanic activity, tectonic plate shifts, tsunamis, and other things going on. So even though it's damaged, it's run down, it's fallen to ruin, it still is, limping on its last legs to deal with the environment that we're in. The planet's heating up, whether it's because of human activity, external activity, doesn't really matter. This system's set up to, basically, move the magma and vent it out. So I think that in and of itself is a humanitarian, or all life species, plant life, whatever you want to call it. I think that particular technology is on the planet to, enhance the life and create the utopia that we, now enjoy. But I think it's running on its last legs, and they really need to look at it and rebuild these pyramids and bring them back up to their specification. And going back, I mean, there's evidence that the pyramids have been rebuilt and enlarged over time. So these particular pyramids, like I said, if you can fix them up and get these hotspots back into operation, you could do away with a lot of the plate tectonics. The big plate shifts. You have the Sumatra subduction zone. You could potentially have plate slips that could cause tidal waves all over the planet. So I mean, this is what these things do when you get into a heated environment that we're in right now. As far as I could tell, I mean, that's the logical thing behind all this.
Kind of like a thermostat for the planet.
It's a thermostat, exactly. And that's the last ditch thermostat is Yellowstone. When the ice glaciers up in the Himalayas melt, you increase the lensing capability or intensity of the gravitational fields of the moon, and it lowers the gravitational field in Yellowstone. So that's a last-ditch effort to stop the planet from overheating. So if we overheat, it will shut itself down and protect itself. And that's intelligent design. Yeah, if you put yourself as a planet builder, I mean, we all believe, all the religions out there have, God, and, so God, he can't build a pyramid and have, constant erupting volcanoes. It's not, obviously you could, but so I'm just saying, he could manifest it into existence. Who knows, But, if you can't believe in a, intelligent species of, or intelligent humans or past societies, believe in a God that put it there, Because it is a God-given device, and it's there for the benefit of life on the planet.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. I really, enjoyed the interview.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. And are you speaking today or tomorrow?
I spoke last night. They might segue me into another time slot today, tomorrow. Not sure. there's some outside things going on. People can't show up. If someone's leaving, I don't know. So.
There's
But
always behind the scenes.
Yeah,
going
it's
on,
on
right?
CD. I have a YouTube channel. It's got a lot of videos. You can check that out. My book, Pyramid Gravity Force, coming out with another book.
Okay.
On the moon.
So, what if your website? You said you're having.
You can still get there. Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, it just needs to be updated. I mean, there's still, you can get a link to my book and look at my blogs and a link to YouTube videos and
What
things
is
in
your
action.
website address?
It's the title of my book, pyramidgravityforce.com. www. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So,
And thank you again.
thank you. Thank you.
Let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. So smile.
Hi, this is Robin Terry from Ashmore Estates. Ashmore Estates is located about a mile west of Ashmore, Illinois. It was a former almshouse or poor farm, and then later a psychiatric care facility. If you're not familiar with Ashmore Estates, you might have seen us on Ghost Adventures, Season 5, Episode 1, or the documentary called Chill in the Grave 2 by the Booth Brothers. There have been major improvements to the property since May of 2014. We have electrical, windows, restrooms, a separate team room, and even bunkhouses for overnight guests. I think you'll find the building an interesting place to perform an investigation, either at night or in the day. We also offer photo shoots, historical tours, and a location for movies to be filmed. Check us out on our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or on our website at ashmoreestates.net.
Hi, this is Sam Moranto, investigative researcher, and you're listening to the Paranormal MD radio show. If you're really looking for an out-of-this-world encounter, make sure to listen.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I'm your host, Mary Marshall. We just heard from Sam Moranto in the commercial break there. Sam is the Illinois director of MUFON and an awesome, awesome person. Anyway, we are going to continue now with some more interviews, which were done live at the International and Scientific Global Pyramid Conference. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal MD. I'm Mary Marshall, your host. I am at the Global Pyramid Conference at the Renaissance in Northbrook, Illinois. I have been fortunate enough to be able to speak with some of the speakers here at this today. And on board right now is Anita Meyer. Anita has a degree in criminology as a linguist, decipherment expert in ancient writings in the field of, orthography, paleography, and graphology. That one I can do. She is also a cryptology whiz and a visual pattern recognizer in the study of nature and structure. Okay, I'm going to start backwards. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
See, I'm already going right into questions. I'm excited here. What the heck? Visual pattern recognizer in the study of nature and structure. What is a cryptology? What is cryptology?
That's finding codes. I wrote a book called Beyond the Bible Code, and that incorporates finding codes within the actual Torah. But as far as me being a visual pattern recognizer, what I had discovered and what my lecture here at the Global Pyramid Conference is, and based off my second book, which is called In Search of the Holy Language, is a spiral form that is a product of nature's law. And I can go into explain a little bit about that. It's based off, if you're familiar with pi 3.14 that we all learned in school.
You know what, for people listening, you maybe explain a little more in depth.
Okay. Well, there's pi 3.14, then there's also the Fibonacci sequence, and that goes by the unit of growth is 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. When you add the last two numbers together, you get the next number, And to simplify that, it's when the next branch on a tree is going to grow. And so there's numbers that are within the Fibonacci sequence, 144 and 233, and when you divide those numbers, you get the golden ratio, which is 1.618, or inversely, 618.
Wow. Okay, I have to stop you. I'm going to back this up a little bit. When you were, before you got to college, I'm going to say child age, because I can already tell by the way what you do here, how your brain works. Were you naturally already organized and so logical in your thought process, and what led you into all of this?
Yes, that's why I say I'm a visual pattern recognizer, because I see patterns in a lot of things in the natural world, and I try to pair them up with other things. I see similarities. And so that's what led me onto my discovery with the units of growth that are found in nature. I thought, well, and I also, my upbringing is I was raised Jewish. I went to both public school and Hebrew school. And so because I had that background, I was able to make the connection that I did. And so what I was trying to look for in the natural world was a common denominator to finding strong evidence for a creator. I was seeing these mathematical units that are in the natural world. And so I knew that there was some kind of connection, because math in itself is a language. And so what I did was I turned to the Bible, actually the Torah, and because I went to Hebrew school, I had that knowledge, that background. And when I decided, something clicked in my mind, and I opened up the Torah and I looked at the very first word of the Torah from Genesis 1:1, and the first word is Barashith, means beginning. And I looked at the very first letter of that word, which is the Hebrew letter B, or it's known in Hebrew as a bet. And right away I saw that it had a unit of growth, as I'm a visual pattern recognizer. And I saw it had a little leg that sticks out to the left, gets a little longer as it goes to the right, and then it furls up even longer, kind of like a hook.
Okay.
So I saw that there was a unit of growth there. And so to test this theory, I took a bendable wire and I bent it in the shape of that letter. I took another bendable wire and I bent it and I spiraled it around that letter with the same exact units of growth that are found in nature, which is the Fibonacci sequence that feeds into the golden ratio. So it starts out small, gets a little bit bigger, and then it furls out, and it matches what looks like a conch shell, if you're familiar with a conch shell. It's that same exact unit of growth and same pattern that this spiral form took. So I was left with this one spiral form, and I was just looking at it and turning it around in my hand, and I quickly realized, I caught sight that yes, it was the Hebrew letter B, bet, but when I turned it upside down, it turned into the Hebrew letter T, tav. And when I looked at it another way, it turned into the Hebrew letter shin, S. Another way, Hebrew letter M, mem, G, gimel, just by turning this around, just by projecting it to my point of view. And miraculously, I realized that that one form that's a product of nature produces the complete Hebrew alphabet, consisting of 22 letters plus 5 final letters. So what I believe I discovered, or rather rediscovered, is not only intelligent design, but divine design.
That is fascinating. It is just fascinating that you are able to process things this way, and thank God, because you see things that other people don't, which lead to wonderful things. Real quick, I usually do this at the end, but I like to throw this out once in a while in the beginning. Can you give us a website for people where they can get Beyond the Bible Code, or is that available?
Yep, it's available in over 200 countries. It's available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, available in all bookstores in the U.S.
Wonderful. Okay.
And also through my publisher, which is Dragon Eye Publishing.
Nice. Okay. I'm going to I'm going to make that little note so that we get that on the website. Okay, so now, wow, it's like, where do you go with these questions? You've actually written 3 books here. One of them is The Primordial Language. I'm going to stop there. Can you tell me a little bit about that particular book?
Yes, that was my first book that I wrote 10 years ago. And it's a very large book. It's 500 pages.
Wow.
And people swear on it. They say it's like a Bible to them. Has everything in it from science, religion, spirituality, mathematics. It talks about oral Torah. It talks about the Great Pyramids. It brings in all sorts of information. But people told me that it was, because it's so large, it's 500 pages, that it was not very reader friendly. But it's a very good book. So then I had the idea for my second and third book to write them smaller, only 100 pages.
In Search of the Holy Language, being one of them.
In Search of the Holy Language is the second one, and the third one is Beyond the Bible Code. And they're just packed with in-your-face evidence that venerates a creator.
You have a background in criminology. How has that lent itself to you in the other things that you're doing here?
Well, I like to consider myself a forensic procurement specialist.
I like that description.
Forensic religious procurement specialist.
Wow.
Because I have that investigative nature to investigate things and to research them. And so that's how my criminology background kind of melds in with this. It's just my interests.
Well, and I would think too, like you're saying, you'd use the word forensic because that's also a very organized, logical process of taking in and processing the information. And you have to do various things very specifically. What is one of the things that you have come across that you were surprised to have discovered?
Wow.
I know, that's a pretty open question there.
Well, obviously the spiral form, that was kind of a shocker because it was just like an aha moment. You know, when I saw it, I'm just like, when I realized it produced all the Hebrew letters, I was just like, oh, aha, okay, that makes sense. But I'm writing a 4th book right now. And I have some phenomenal information that's going to be in this book. And also at the next conference that I'm going to be at, which is going to be in Nauvoo, Illinois, and you can find that information on my website, Anita Meyer 1 at Wix.com. And what it is it's a computer program written in C#, and I'm going to have it on my laptop, and it has a microphone, and each one of the Hebrew letters has a specific name. Like Aleph is A, okay?
Mm-hmm.
B is Bet. The Hebrew alphabet goes Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Those names were given to those letters for a specific purpose, and for the reason why they are called Aleph or Bet. And in the sound program that I have, the name of the letter, of the Hebrew letter itself, when you voice it out, actually produces the form of the letter itself.
Oh my gosh, that is fascinating.
So that would have to be my answer to that question.
Wow. It's a really good undertaking to see. I'm one of those people, not quite to your level, but I consistently look at things, and I'm always, without wanting to, sometimes just correlation. I see relationships nowhere in the realm of what you're doing. So each of those basically are going to resonate at a different frequency in a sense.
Yes.
Now then, the next question I guess would be, when you start recognizing that, you have to question why those particular frequencies.
Mm-hmm. Well, because it's a holy language. And if you read the Bible, it tells us that the Creator spoke. He said, let there be light, and there was light. He spoke a language, and it was based on the science of sound and frequency. And this was the language that he spoke, that he created all things with. And this language is what controls nature now, what created everything, and what is continually controlling nature and the whole universe, the whole cosmos.
The relationship, I can just see this going, you're going to have a 5th book. I can just see it already, because once you get, so to say, to the other side of this, it just opens up an avenue of more questions.
Yes.
What would you know what, this is interesting. What would you like to find when you get to the other side of this? What do you think that you may or may not find?
I think that, definitely the Creator, but more so the true purpose of the language, understanding it, because there's a prophecy, and it's found in the Bible in Zephaniah, and it says that the Lord will restore this pure language. It was corrupt, if you're familiar with the Bible story about the Tower of Babel,
mm-hmm.
where language was confused, and it will, then the Lord will bring it back. He will bring this pure language back. And I would like to see it go in the direction, in huge leaps for medical science, in curing illnesses and diseases.
So almost it's, well, for somebody like me, or possibly those listening, so in a sense, the frequencies themselves, which is reflective in a lot of metaphysical areas for healing.
Correct.
So that you think that this in itself will be the healing source.
Yes, but it can also be used,
diagnosed,
in very bad ways for destruction.
Oh.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, Nikola Tesla, with his Tower of Power, if you can zone in, if you know a lot of Tesla's work, he did some experimenting with his Tesla coils and frequency, and you can create earthquakes, and you can have huge detrimental effects on the environment.
It's almost, this also, as soon as you said that, it made me think of infrasound.
Yes.
And how that they've tested that and used that in
mm-hmm.
warfare and on battlefields.
Yes.
And how it can paralyze the person in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
Nausea, headache, pain, so forth. So, of course. What they always say is whatever you have for good somebody's going to find it and use it for something bad or something evil.
Right.
At this point, I think we're going to let you get back to the conference. I would love to have you on full-time for a show in the future. So I do have your contact info, and I think that if you're, have the time at some point, I'd love to have you back on the show.
That'd be great. I'd love to.
And thank you very, very much for being with us. And if you could, one more time for those listening, give us both the website, your website, and then from there they can, go get your books.
Yes, Anita Meyer 1 at Wix.com is my website. My books are available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. Any bookstore you walk in can order my book if they don't have it. It's available through my publisher at Dragon Eye Publishing.
And just to say it, the 3 books are, starting in the older book first, if you will, is The Primordial Language. The next is In Search of the Holy Language. And the last is Beyond the Bible Code. And you know what, real quick, when do you think you'll have the other one finished for release, the latest one?
I'm
You're
hoping before August.
That would be awesome. Does it have a working title? No.
Still working on it.
So it's a working title.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again, and I will let you get back to the conference.
Thanks for having me.
We need to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
Hi, this is Robin Terry from Ashmore Estates. Ashmore Estates is located about a mile west of Ashmore, Illinois. It was a former almshouse or poor farm and then later a psychiatric care facility. If you're not familiar with Ashmore Estates, you might have seen us on Ghost Adventures, Season 5, Episode 1, or in a documentary called Chill in the Grave 2 by the Booth Brothers. There have been major improvements to the property since May of 2014. We have electrical, windows, restrooms, a separate team room, and even bunkhouses for overnight guests. I think you'll find the building an interesting place to perform an investigation, either at night or in the day. We also offer photo shoots, historical tours, and a location for movies to be filmed. Check us out on our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or on our website at ashmoreestates.net.
Have you ever wanted to spruce up the marketing material for your business? Have you ever wanted to turn those memories you have on slides or VHS tapes into DVDs? Have you ever wanted to create the perfect personalized video for a loved one? Then look no further. The sky is the limit with Chum Bucket Studios. Anything is possible because it all begins with a little imagination. Please visit www.chumbucketstudios.com for more information.
Well, that's it for our show this evening and our live coverage of the International and Scientific Global Pyramid Conference. I want to say a special thank you again to the people who took their time out of their conference day, which is always busy, hectic weekend, for spending some time with us and sharing just some wonderful information. So thank you, John. Thank you, Maureen. And thank you, Anita. If you would like more information on the guests that were on the show this evening, you can go to the paranormalmdradio.com. I suggest you check out the past guests so that you can find their websites and go find out even more about them. Also, all the shows there are available, old and new alike. You can actually download the podcast of the last few shows. After that, it will go into a listen only. You can also check out our YouTube channel, The Paranormal MD, and listen to the radio shows that way. So that's our show for this evening. Thank you to everyone listening at home. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, smile.